Welcome. I'm not coming up there. It's just that step's killing me. I'll be honest with you. I'm getting old.
Good morning, everybody. Welcome back. Day 2 of the event. Any hangovers? Before we start, anyway, really important announcement. Who are we shouting out to?
The most fabulous Joan.
Come here, Joan.
Come on. Give her a big round of applause. Come forward.
How many years have you been married, Joan? Too long.
58.
58 years. Medal. She has got a medal. That is outstanding. Congratulations, Joan. Have a fabulous day.
I feel sorry for the guy.
Apparently, he's got a medal too.
Anyway, let's bring these guys on. Have a great day, guys. I'll leave you with Kieran.
Well, I'm going to leave you with these guys. James, I'm going to hand over to you, make your introductions, and I'm going to have a cup of tea.
That was the shortest introduction. Thanks. I thought it'd be at least 5 minutes. Hi, everyone. My name's James Lemon. I'm the founder of a community called Otolo. Otolo is a space where hospitality people can come together for support, inspiration, development. Whatever you need, we want it to be a place where people can find their gang, find their club. We know it's a tough industry. We know there's a lot going on. So Otolo is a free community for individuals to join. Feel free to come and grab a seat. We're going to take 45 minutes and talk about a couple of things. But the key thing we want to talk about is where has the sense of community gone and how can we keep it going? I think we all recognize that COVID was just an amazing time for families, streets, communities, industries, professions to bond together virtually. And we got a huge amount done in a few weeks, a few months. And now it feels like as things are getting back to normal, it's just gone manic again. We're all too busy. There's no time to think about us. People are strangely lonelier than ever. And as an industry, we know we're all facing that challenge of how do we get our stories out? How do we build connection across the industry so that we can go on and do great things, rebuild our talent pool, rebuild our teams, and rebuild our businesses and organizations stronger than ever. So if you're into community, if you're into creating a space where you can share and learn and grow, grab a seat and we'll be talking you through it in the next 45 minutes. So I'm delighted to, and by the way, I'm actually stepping in case you wonder why. I've got no idea what I'm talking about, for Luce Watson, who's unfortunately not very well today and looks after marketing at Otolo. But really excited to introduce our guests. I'll let them do their introductions, but we have David, a hotelier down from Manchester. We have Naomi, Hollas, who set up her own community for event professionals, and we have Pengelley of Mandarin Oriental, who spent her time during the pandemic building community. So I'm just going to get straight into it, and Kat, I'll start with you if that's okay. Do you want to do a quick introduction, who you are, and what community's meant to you over the last couple of years, your story?
Of course. So my name's Kat. As many of you have heard, if you're looking for me on LinkedIn, it is Katrina, but I do not answer to it in person, so please don't call me that. I have just recently started a position at Mandarin Oriental after being made redundant almost 2 years ago. During the pandemic, I set up as a freelancer and spent a lot of my time working with communities such as Otolo, the Institute of Hospitality, and the Female Hospitality Network, so that I could not only grow my own community, but so I could support those during the pandemic and growing theirs, and assisting with mentoring and career advice, etc.
Perfect, thank you. I'm not sure if that's me or not. Thanks, Kat. Naomi.
Hello, so my name's Naomi. I am the founder of a community called Event Grads, which is a community for event management students and graduates like myself. I graduated from International Event Management in 2019 up in Scotland. I'm going to try and talk slower because I've been told I talk very fast. But yes, communities have been a big part of my life for the last 2 years, and I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for Event Grads and communities over the pandemic. So yeah, that's me.
Perfect. And David?
Yeah, I'm David O'Connor. I'm head of sales marketing community at the Allen in Manchester. I was made redundant in October 2020 in the pandemic, spent most of 2021 working for the NHS, and came back to hospitality in August last year, but in my time away working with people such as the Institute of Hospitality, Otolo, and getting involved in as many little groups on Facebook and Twitter and Instagram, keeping up with what's going on in the industry that we love.
Perfect. So a bit of audience participation. Who here's on LinkedIn right now? And who's joined a kind of hospitality type community group on LinkedIn? Yeah? And who's genuinely used it for something useful? Okay, perfect. So a few hands. So we know that these spaces pop up online. I think where we're coming from is that they can often explode into self-promotion, into getting yourself out there, and we've potentially lost some of that authenticity and a place to connect. So we're all about communities where you can genuinely find people who can become your new best friend, who can become that critical big brother or sister to kind of help you through. The first question I guess I've got to see, what does community really mean? I'm going to massively overuse the word in the next 30 minutes, but what are some of the benefits? What have you been looking for in the last couple of years that's meant you've connected with someone new? I'll go in reverse order, David.
For me, I think one of the, I'll be very honest, there's a lady in the front row here, Kat. Now, during the pandemic, I've never been made redundant. I was that guy that was always the golden boy of wherever he worked, and I was made redundant and thrown on the trash heap. And there were several points during the pandemic where I kind of thought, what's the point? And there were 3 instances where I considered doing something silly. And if it wasn't for meeting people like Kat on some chat room on Facebook or whatever, I may not be here. And I think one of the things is that for me, as an industry, a lot of people have been talking the talk about looking after each other and changing things and not doing that 60, 70, 80 hour week anymore. And it's not happening. I love hospitality, I love working hotels, but at the minute I'm kind of disgusted with the overall industry because we're all talking the talk, but we're not walking the walk. And I was saying to you when I got here last night, I had a tough night. Yeah. I had some dark thoughts, the black dog was back, and it was only because of someone that I'd met in a group on Otolo who messaged me on Instagram out of nowhere and said, hey, smile, you've got a job. Yeah. And that's why I'm here this morning.
Yeah, thank you for sharing. I know how hard that must be. So it sounds like it's support, right? It's that new face that you can go to, someone who's just looking out for you.
We've had a tough 2 years where we've all taken a kick in. Some of us have had to, so many of our colleagues in this industry have gone on to do different things and they've not come back. There's a brain drain, and we all have to change the way we think. I had a press trip last week where a server spilt a Bloody Mary on the journalist's camera. Old David before the pandemic would have gone schizo, effing and jeffing, but you can't do that anymore because we have to take on board what's going on in everyone's lives and just be a little bit more vulnerable and open to each other and support each other. Because at the minute, we're all running around for a pound and it's not an easy job in hospitality right now, and quite rightly so. That we need to stop that brain drain and try and make it an industry people want to return to. Yeah,
so it's also that place where the industry can come together with one voice, and also that we can have some conversations about what we want the future to be like. What is the future that we want hospitality to be like over the next 5-10 years, so that we're more resilient, that we've got the right teams in place, and that we've got the right connections. I love it. Thanks for sharing that, David. Naomi.
Yeah, I think for me, community has been about bringing like-minded people together and being able to exchange knowledge. That's why I created Event Grads, for example. It was to bring young professionals together to talk, have a safe space to discuss things where you don't have the pressure of the stupid question or your employer or your lecturer, and you can just discuss things. And I think that's been really, really powerful. And I think we've been talking a lot about how much stronger the industries are going to be because of these communities, because we're all friends, we're all looking after each other. We all have these now connections that we wouldn't have had if it wasn't for the pandemic and bringing us together online. And I think that's a really exciting prospect that we are developing the industry as a whole. So that's kind of what Event Grads and communities like Otolo have brought to me, and why I believe they're really important.
Yeah, I love it. I think one of the things I think you've always reminded me, Naomi, is that some people go and study hospitality, so you naturally get, a lecturer who loves the industry, you get a group of people, but most people never study hospitality or events or tourism, so you just get thrown into this one workplace, and if your boss just isn't giving you that inspiration, that sense of what you could do next, I think you look back a few years and it was just really hard to get it. What do? Just take some online courses, but this is such a diverse industry. If you want to go into marketing or tech or HR, whatever you want to do next, it's open to you, and it's incredibly democratic, but we know that people are held back by the one boss that they have in a small business. So it's all about building these connections across small businesses, across organizations, and across functions to learn together. Kat, what was your story?
So I first would really like to say that that I love that you said friends. Because as much as I originally started joining these communities to grow my network and be more familiar with who else is in the industry in London, I've connected with some lovely people of my same, I want to say like age demographic or whatever it is, but we've got along so well. I have a friend in Copenhagen that I've gone to see since COVID has eased up a little bit. I have a friend out in the countryside in England who I see every couple of weeks, and we met virtually during the pandemic on these platforms. And I think for a lot of people, it was number one to understand that you're not alone, that there's hundreds of other people that are in very similar situations to you, whether it's in the pandemic like we were and everyone was being made redundant, or even, let's say pre or post-pandemic, having some questions in your role or unsure of where you want to go. Having that level of community really allows you to understand that you're not a lone wolf in those feelings. And for me, when I got made redundant in June 2020, I had only lived in London for 2 years and worked at that one company, and I realized very quickly that I had no connections in the hospitality industry in London, and I was like, oh my god, what am I going to do? And so I started looking for communities. I actually found some really cool podcasts that interview hoteliers, and I was able to take that knowledge that I had gained from these communities and from these podcasts and then go find them on LinkedIn, connect with them, and start building my own community through the communities that I had found online. So online and in person, of course, because hopefully moving forward, we'll be able to meet in person a lot as well.
Yeah, nice. I think there's always this sense that, again, one observation playing devil's advocate, I look at the three of you and you guys seem quite outgoing, you seem like this has all come really naturally to you. One of the things we've learned is that this has not come naturally to a lot of people. The idea that you go and build connections, the idea that you speak up in an online forum, the idea that you ask questions or go and find a mentor is really alien to a lot of people. So what are some of the first simple practical steps you'd recommend to someone who's like, I think I'm in that boat, right? I don't know a lot of people. I don't quite know where I want to go next. I can't quite see what my future looks like. Where would you just suggest starting? I guess maybe David, come back to you.
I think you've just got to take a step, because we were saying before the talk started, I am that typical lounge lizard sales guy in the lobby who will just come and schmooze and wine and dine. But it's like being on stage. That's not really me. I hate going out on a weekend. I'm terrified of shopping centres. I'm the shyest guy you could ever hope to meet. So it's kind of this big juxtaposition between my job and who I am. And I think that it's understanding that that's okay. I love what I do. And it is a brave thing for me to go out and do that. And that's why I think it comes naturally for me to reach out and connect with people on social media or in person. It's just taking that leap of faith and just doing it. Because once you've done it once, it's like cold calling. I hated cold calling when I got into sales. But once you do it, it comes naturally and you just keep doing it.
Yeah. Naomi, what's your experience?
I think as a young person, the word networking, for example, is very daunting. It's traumatizing, really, because you picture it as suits and sitting at a table, and you're going to have to sell yourself. And as a young person, you're like, how do I sell myself? But online, like LinkedIn's another quite daunting place. It's got better. I think it's become a little bit more modern as more young people get onto there. It's not all suits, but it can be very daunting to make that first step. And we were even just saying before this that this isn't the kind of thing we usually do. We've started to since the pandemic, but we just said yes and just wung it, and here we are. So thank you. But that's my advice. But I think making that first connection, doing things like Kat's been doing, like listening to podcasts, looking at what's out there, seeing who the people are. Maybe if you're wanting to get a new job or whatever you're trying to build your network for, or gain more understanding, look who's in the jobs that you want. Look who's on, not an influencer, but kind of a thought leader in that kind of area, and maybe reaching out to them or connecting with them first, or even just sending that first message. And if you're connecting with people on LinkedIn, leaving a wee note just to say, this is how I found you, this is what I'm interested in, I'm really keen to connect with you and get to know you. So I think it is that daunting first step that is the hardest, but it's so worth it, and you make friends for life already. And I think that's me.
Nice. Yeah. I think, Kat, one of the things you've always got right from the start is you really put your personal profile out there in a really constructive way. Your LinkedIn page, you've got your own kind of page out there, you're creating a bit of a brand. How did you get started with that? How did you kind of really really push out who Kat was to the world?
Yeah, well, I think my first step, and it's funny, is, we're talking about first steps in finding these people and finding these communities. As cliche as it sounds, I Googled it. I literally started Googling, hospitality networking London, hospitality networking UK, and just saw what came up on Google first as a place to start. And as I'm not even sure if I mentioned, but as I maybe mentioned, the main reason that I wanted to build my personal community and my network was because I wanted to get back into hospitality, that I didn't want to be out of the industry for as long as I was, but that was the pandemic's fault. But I really realized after starting to apply for a few jobs in July 2020 that there was going to be hundreds of people applying for the same position that I was applying for, and many of them just as qualified or more qualified than me. And that's kind of when I had a turning point realization that I was like, well, what can I do that's, if that person sees my CV and they get to my LinkedIn, what on my LinkedIn is going to show them that I'm the person that they should at least interview? And that's where I bring in what I tell people that I mentor, your personal yet professional life. Keeping politics and sports out of it, because those are conversations that are going to turn into arguments for sure. But shout out your personal accomplishments, your personal achievements, and really show your personality past the black and white of your CV on your online profile, because you do get a bit more flexibility. CVs have to be very tailored. They have to ensure that they hit certain keywords so you get past the computer and actually make it onto somebody's desk. But your LinkedIn profile, or even any other public profile that you have on communities or Instagram or Facebook, can really sell you professionally as long as you do it right and you share the right bit of information. And I think that with the changing of my profile picture, with shouting out the volunteering that I was doing and the mentoring that I was doing, I was able to kind of position myself as someone that hopefully they at least want to talk to and have that conversation and make it to the interview stage, so that I could then ideally get a job.
Yeah. I want to talk a little bit about what you feel like you've got to offer, because one of the things we've learned at Otolo is that mentoring community is really a two-way process. Yes, it always looks like everyone else has their shit together. You go on these things, you're like, oh my God, that person's so concise, their picture's amazing, they've had it professionally done, it just looks amazing. So you're sitting there going, well, what have I got to offer? What have I got to say? How do you kind of get over that hump, I suppose? How would you try and drive a bit of encouragement that really everyone should have a voice and everyone's got something to share? I guess, David, come to you.
I think it's just about being honest. I don't care if you're going to be upset by what I say when I talk to you. I'm going to be honest and open with you and vulnerable and listen to what you've got to say. One of my things I'm trying to work with in the industry with our team at Manchester at the Allen is we've all been there where a server, a receptionist has come to you as their line manager and said they're struggling with stuff at home. And then you might have a word with the GM or the HR manager, and you'll be like, "Oh, it's just because she's working 7 days, or he's done 2 weeks non-stop." But how many of us as senior leaders are ready and willing and able to cope with another senior leader coming up to him and saying, "I don't see the point of anything anymore"? Yeah. And I think that's, for me, one of the things I want to work with is being that open voice for people to come up and say to me, either through an Instagram chat or through a Facebook message or a LinkedIn message or a phone call, I'm struggling, I don't know what to do. And I think that's where we need to go away from recruitment to curation. Yeah. We need to curate teams where people are open with that. And if there's someone on the team who doesn't play with those rules, who doesn't allow themselves to be open and vulnerable and supportive of people who are struggling, that's why you have a probation period. We're not the right business for you. Yeah. You can leave this safe space that we've created, and I don't think we have enough safe spaces for the. We're very good at looking after the troops, which we should do, but when it comes to our senior leaders, like you said, that guy's got his shit together. He's great. Yeah. He doesn't need any help. He's fine. He's paid 50, 60 grand a year. Let him get on with it. Yeah. We need to be open to each other more.
And I guess there's also this sense, if you've been on that kind of a journey, you are a great voice for someone else to come to, right? If you're able to share openly, hey, this is actually my story, and thank you for doing that today, other people might just be like, actually, you know what? I can manage a LinkedIn post to David. I can manage a quick note on LinkedIn or Otolo and say, actually, can I grab a bit of time with you? So that's, in a way, what you've now got to offer.
And LinkedIn is another, I was very guilty. I didn't do any of the other social media. I was a LinkedIn guy. But in the same way that people talk about Instagram's badge of health because you're just putting up the good stuff, well, I was just putting up the good stuff in my work life.
Yeah.
And it was just more and more pressure. I'm very lucky now that I've got an owner and a general manager who I can go to and I can say, I'm not coping.
Yeah.
You need to give me some breathing room. And they will respect me with that and give me that.
Yeah, I love it. And Naomi, you've obviously built a community of really brand new graduates, right? People who just want to get started in events. They're not sitting there with this magical 10 years of experience. How do you encourage them to say, you know what, you've got something to offer too, throw yourself into this?
Yeah, I guess it's kind of sharing that you get out what you put in, and sitting back and waiting for things isn't going to work. I think when you're at college or university or you're getting an education of some sort, it can be easy to just think that education is it, but it's so much more in hospitality and events. All the industries really, it's going out there and finding opportunities that are out of the box or opportunities out with your education so that you can add that to your LinkedIn and add that to your CV and things like that. And because when you come out of education, you're really competing with a heck of a lot of people that are already in industry newcomers, graduates. Especially after the pandemic, there's about 3 years worth of people competing for the same roles. So LinkedIn is really a special place where you can, as Kat said, present yourself in a different way and be more transparent. I think that's really important, and it gives you a platform to be a thought leader, or share your opinions and your things you want to talk about. And I think that's a really a great place, because that's where you can be found, you can be noticed for jobs, for opportunities, for communities. So putting yourself out there and just sharing what you want to share. We've got loads of event grads that have started their own blogs, started their own podcasts, been on podcasts, joined Otolo, things like that. And it's amazing that all these opportunities are now there for you to do that. So
yeah. It almost feels like there's an inevitability that this is the way the world's going, right? There's this formal academia, there's the stuff you're going to learn on the job, and then there's these peer groups, there's networks of peers who can share ideas as experts. But if you want to know where the jobs are, if you want to know who the people are, if you want to know what you need to know next, it really does feel like you're going to learn way faster learning off people who've been there before, people who are going through that stuff right now, than by reading it in a book or expecting a company to have written it down in their blog. Kat, what's your sense?
Yeah, well, to bring it back to your original question, where to start? Because as you're right, that can be the most daunting part is, well, how do I reach out to that person, or what should I even post about? It's perfect timing that I was actually sitting down with one of my mentees from Otolo yesterday. We went for a drink last night, and we were talking about LinkedIn and about doing, her first post as she's now starting to look for internships for the summer. And what I think is great for students is what they don't realize is everything that's going on in the world, everything that the hotels, the restaurants, the events companies are too busy to really dig their teeth into and understand. They're literally learning it 8 hours a day. They're learning about Brexit. They're learning about the pandemic. They're writing papers on it. They're doing presentations on it. And so my first advice is, I was like, well, do you have any paper or presentation that you're really passionate about? What about that presentation really speaks to you as a hospitality individual? And she kind of explained it to me, and I said, great, say that. Share that paper. Tag a couple of hotels that you think that might be beneficial to this. Mention a couple of people's names that you interviewed to get that paper handled, and just write about what gets you excited about this topic or what makes you so passionate about it. Because if those are the things that are featured on your profile, someone's going to see that after looking at your CV and say, wow, this person's really passionate. This person's really interested in hospitality. They're looking to build a career here. And that's kind of how you can set yourself out, is really talking about your passions and what gets you so excited about the industry. Because we talk, as everyone here I'm sure knows, we always talk about the fact that it's about your passion, not just your skill set, because skills can be taught, but personality is something that you're born with. So it's really important that as much as we have our skills on our black and white CV, when you get to your LinkedIn profile and you have your picture, mine, I think I'm laughing in my picture, which might not be super professional, but it shows that I'm incredibly loud and usually always smiling. So taking that little extra step to really let your personality shine through where you can. And when in doubt, start close to home. When I started building my LinkedIn profile, I looked at my mom's, because she'd had LinkedIn for a few years and she's a professional, so why not look at what my mom's looks like and start from there? Start with your friends at school, your colleagues at work, connect with those few people that you already have that connection with. And what I always tell my mentees is steal it. Go to my profile, whatever you like from it, just steal it and replicate it and put it on yours, because there's no harm in doing that. If that's what you like and if that's what speaks to you, then you should definitely have that on your profile.
Yeah, I love that, Kat. I think one of the things you do really well, Kat, is you've really found your voice. You really do know what you want to say, and that takes time, but that would be my top tip to anyone, is find the one thing you want to write about. This is the perfect place to start, right? Who have you met here that you're impressed by? What businesses do you think are going somewhere? Just write a few notes about it, tag them in it, and you're on that journey. It's really important you find that voice. So I want to talk about something that's making me a bit sad at the moment, which is that some of us in the industry just shout at each other in agreement the whole time. We're all like this is, 4 of us are doing it now. This is obviously the way things are going. But it's not actually that simple. We talk to employers day in, day out who are not into this stuff, right? They're like, actually, James, I'm the coach to my team. I'm the mentor to my team. If I plug them into communities like Otolo, they're going to leave. And I guess maybe we're guilty of that too. We've all been saying, actually, this is partly about finding your next amazing job. This is partly about getting out there. I guess, what are your messages for leaders, right? How can you take the experiences of community and throw them into being amazing at your current job? And what can we say to some of those leaders who are like, this is just blowing them away, that if they suddenly plug into industry networks, their team are going to scatter to the wind? David, what's your sense? I can see your face is not impressed by this. How dare you play devil's advocate, James?
If you as an employer think that allowing your teams to get involved in communities like Otolo is going to make them leave you, then guess what? You're a crap employer. It's about, like I said, it's about curating. I've had the joy of working at the Dorchester, and I didn't want to leave there because it was a great community of people I was learning from. I've also worked in a Holiday Inn, and I was there for a while, and I went back to it. And that was a great community of people that I had a joy to work with. I'm in Manchester now. We're building a great team of people with no experience of the industry because they've all gone. But we've got, there's a great guy called Joel from Hartlepool who's in a band, and he's a really cool man, and he calls me dude, and that makes me feel great at 41. and we've got, we're building this great community of people who feel safe with each other, respectful for each other. I saw an employee the other day putting a job out for Director of Sales, brackets, MFNB. That's brilliant. It's about time that we just started accepting each other and getting away from all these echo chambers of all these stupid things. If you as an employer are worried about giving your guys an opportunity to get to know people in other communities because you think they might leave you, then you need to find another industry because you're not a very good employer.
All right. Fair enough. So it's about fresh perspective. It's about bringing new ideas in.
It's about we as a world, we have lost the ability to be open and vulnerable to each other. And if we can just do that in life, it just changes the way you see the world. Am I happy every day I go into work? No. I'm a human being, but I work with people who are accepting of that, and we support each other to get over that. We're professionals, we think in the same way. We've had a couple of people on our team who have not been like that, gossiping people and people that are a bit two-faced, and we go, this is not the right community for you. Thank you for coming, but this isn't right for you, and you manage them out.
Yeah, nice. Naomi, what's your sense as you think about employers, and what's the real benefit to your current job of joining a community?
So there's a hospitality professional from the States who I did a course with during the pandemic. They were doing it for free, and at the bottom of his email, I just sent this to all you guys, I'm sorry, I talk about it all the time. At the bottom of his email signature, it's like about career development and personal development, and what if they leave? And it's like, what if they stay? So if you're investing in your community, if you're investing in your employees, you're investing in not only your business, but the development of the industry. And people in your company want to feel valued, and you not allowing them, or not approving of them being in these communities, being open, sharing their opinions and stories, and micromanaging them in that way, you're not giving them, it's not valuable to them, but you're not showing them that you believe in them either, or that you trust them, or that, there's so many issues, as you said, with people that don't allow you to be yourself. And I think being part of these communities allows you to be yourself, and it allows you to gain so much, like a wider perspective, way more knowledge, clients probably for your company, all these benefits from it. And if you're halting that person's progression, and that person's not going to thrive in your business, in that role, until they leave, probably.
Yeah. Well, and it's like Luce said on the call. The three of us were on a call, and at the end of it, Luce said to us, "And how would your employer feel about you coming to the event and speaking on the stage?" Well, if our employer has a problem with us coming to events like this, then they're being closed-minded, and they need to get over that. It's because, like you said, there's probably 2 or 3 people here who might want to talk to you afterwards, learn more about your community, and send some business your way.
Exactly.
Yeah. No, really interesting. And I think one of the things, a really common topic of the last couple of days has been, whatever you want to call it, a staffing crisis. If we can't attract people to the industry and then we can't keep people in the industry, it always comes back to this same observation that you just have to get to know every one of your members of staff. You have to figure out what drives them, what they want out of their job, and you've got to figure out how as an employer you make space for them to get what they need out of it, whether that be a side hustle, whether they be rapid promotion, whether that be work-life balance around a family, whatever it is. One of the big things I think I'd always say about communities is this is where your people can figure out their point of view on that stuff. If to sit in front of your boss and them say, where do you want to be in 3 years, what drives you, those are really big questions. But if they've had a space to meet like-minded people or events and mentoring and coaching, they can actually turn up and be like, actually, I have really thought about it, and I really do want this side hustle. I do want to do my own podcast one day. I want to be a GM at 30, whatever it is. Their community is where they will find that voice, is where they'll find that sense of their own inspiration. So I think really encourage them to go and figure themselves out, I think would be a big one. Kat, how about you?
Yeah, I think, to tie into what both of you said, is very much that if I was an employer and I had someone come up to me and say, hey, I'm really looking forward to joining this hospitality community, for me, that would be a big ping that says this person wants to grow a career in hospitality. Not that this person wants to leave me 5 years down the line and go to a different company, but this person, this individual, wants to grow a career in hospitality. And if I can't identify that, big red flag to become a crappy company, as you said. So it's one of those things where, not only identifying it, but once you identify it, well, that's fantastic that this person wants to, grow their community and build a career in hospitality. But then it's on the employer side to be like, well, great, well, how do we nurture that in a way that we will retain you? Or when the time comes and you move on, as we know, the hospitality industry is a huge global industry, but it's so tight-knit and so close because everyone moves around the world, moves within these companies. If you have someone leaving you and going to another company, there's nothing wrong with that. It's just that the points that they are in their life means they need to learn something else, they need to do something else. And if you've given them an experience that they loved, and a community that they loved, and the support that they needed, as you did with Holiday Inn, they'll come back to you.
Yeah.
Because that's where they found their home in hospitality.
Yeah.
And so I think it's really important for leaders to ensure that they can identify those people that want to grow themselves and then nurture and develop them, whether they leave or not.
Yeah.
Because they're building the industry, even if it's not within your company.
Yeah, and great people know great people, right? So at the point, if they do
Exactly.
leave, they'll recommend the next 5, 10 people to come and work for you. So are we taking questions? Anyone got any questions at this stage? Well, before we figure it out. So what have we figured out? There's one over here. So what have we figured out? So if you want to get ahead of hospitality, join Otolo. If you want to give back and be a great boss, join Otolo. If you want to meet people and figure out what you want to do with your life, join Otolo. So it sounds like we've made some good decisions. So yeah.
Can I mention something that
Yeah,
Kat
go ahead.
mentioned actually? She mentioned about looking for these people and like the flags that looking for engaged people using their initiative, all these things. That's exactly what people have in their job descriptions for people. How else do you demonstrate that by joining? But then if you're stifling that, then what are you asking for in these job descriptions? That was just something.
Maybe crap bosses just mean, but just do it in the way that I tell you to do it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry, go ahead.
Thank you. I guess I already know the answer because it's going to be join Otolo.
No, it's fine.
I run a small, fast-growing non-out company, and we're always looking for new people to join. What's the best way of signposting that you're that kind of employer that really cares about investing in people growing within a business? what are the kind of quick shortcuts for a seat? For
Yeah,
LinkedIn or
we
wherever?
had a session on this just yesterday, actually. The best thing you can do is talk to Dan, who is 3 feet away from you. So we spent an hour on this yesterday, and there are no shortcuts, but it really is. It really is. Joy and giggle. It really is. Just make sure your brand turns up in just a really authentic way, because you'll have customers that love you, and it could be that your customers come and work for you. So just make sure that voice is showing up, and just move away from this dry job description. Really, just show up in a way that you're here to be more flexible, to figure out what people need, to fit yourselves around their lives. I think that's kind of some of the things that feel quite hard to do as an employer, but I think what we were saying yesterday, you just have to make the time for in the new world, which is, I'm sure there'll be a recording of it, we'll dig it out, but but definitely I want to ask the panel the same question. What do you think it takes to be an employer of choice that sounds like the kind of place that we've just been describing? I guess, go ahead. Dan.
Just be genuine. I don't really know how to answer that question, because I've been burnt once or twice where you see the branding and they've got the video of the CEO and he's talking about how he loves being a people person and he's open to things. And you get there and it's not the company you thought it was. There's a few companies in the news at the minute that are like that. But if you can just try and be as honest and genuine in those conversations, if I ever interview for you, I'm going to be very honest with you. And if you don't like that, then don't hire me. But if you think that you see something there, then hire me.
Yeah. Maybe we should start this section on Otolo. We could call it like Roast My Employer Brand.
Yeah.
Like you put up your socials, your job ads, and we could just like throw abuse at it for half an hour, and you can come away hurt, but half made. Naomi, what's your sense? What do you think people are looking for?
One way that you can demonstrate this is through your employees that you already have, and showcasing the culture that you have within the company, because there's so many tick boxes, there's so many words on paper, but what does that actually mean and how is that actually showcased and demonstrated throughout your company? And that one way you can do that is through your current employees, what they're talking about, what they enjoy, maybe asking them, but also what's kind of showcased on your website or on your social media in that sense.
Yeah.
And getting your employees involved, because who else knows other than the employees that you already have?
Yeah.
But I think it's great you're asking that question.
And my sense is you must have millions of people work in the booze market who must be disenfranchised by it, right? Like we can't keep being this unhealthy. You've got this beautiful niche of the market, which is all the fun of grown-up drinking, but with none of the health risks. So I think that you've got a lovely story to tell. So
Yeah, absolutely. I'm actually 2 years sober, so I like what you guys are talking about.
Yeah, all good. Kat.
And I think too, as well as, talking to your employees and being open and honest, I think something that, we really have to think about as well is if we are moving forward with these new ways of hiring, ensuring that we're looking for people that are the right fit, have the right ethos, have the right passion, the way that you go about looking for them to fill those positions is going to be different as well. You can't just, post a job advert on Indeed or on LinkedIn and expect the right people to find you. You need to use that community that you have, those senior connections in the industry, and say, hey, I have an opening, this is the type of person I'm looking for. Who do you recommend? That's actually how I got the job that I'm in now. I got a call out of the blue from someone in Singapore asking if I wanted to interview for this job, and I was like, yes, please. But I had gotten that through a connection of a connection, because that person knew just how passionate I was about getting back into the industry. So it kind of comes full circle. We want the individuals in the industry to share their passion and express open and honestly what they're looking for, and then hopefully we can turn that around as while they're expressing to the wider industry, those that are looking to fill positions that fit that ethos, they'll have heard from their connections in their wider industry about these people that are expressing those passions. So I think it's looking into different ways of finding the talent.
Yeah.
It's not just posting a job advert and waiting for it to come to you. It's making that little bit of extra effort to speak to your connections in your industry to find people that are the right fit and bring them to you.
Yeah. Do you have a marketing lead? Like a marketing person? So treat it like a marketing campaign. That's probably the best advice. And how would you make your employer brand go viral, right? Are you showing up as a mentor? Are you showing up with an industry voice? And we're looking for mentors on Otolo, believe it or not. So anyone who has a couple hours free to volunteer a month, we'd love to have you as mentor on Otolo to give back and try and share some of these perspectives. So any other final questions? Conscious we're probably out of time. So only good questions, please. I'm kidding, every question's valid. I've got loads of time. That's brilliant, I've got loads of time. We have loads of time. You can ask crap questions if you want. I'm kidding. Okay, no questions.
You
Right.
scared everyone away now.
I know, I definitely have with that. So look, I want to talk about industry perception. Again, like, I don't want to shout into an echo chamber because we all love hospitality, but what would you change about hospitality stories? How would you make sure we're telling the world that hospitality is a great place to work, not just telling hospitality people it's a great place to work? What could we be doing differently as individuals, as leaders, as professionals? Kat, what are some of your thoughts?
Not to sound like my own broken record, but again, getting those stories out there, sharing your passion, your favorite moments of working in hospitality. There's a great podcast from an industry friend called Hospitality Meets with Phil Street, and what I love about those is he tells the you're telling the stories of the highs and lows of the industry, your best day and your worst day, but the learnings from your worst day and the excitement of your best day, and what really makes you love the role that you're in or the industry that you're in, and sharing that passion. And I think specifically we need to start younger. We're going out to people that are in hospitality colleges or universities, and those people already have a slight interest in hospitality because they're there. But why aren't we speaking to senior school students who are still in the progression of trying to decide what they're doing in their life, and sharing the industry much more than we do now? I think the perception is very much that hospitality can be a stepping stone to the career that you want in the future. But I've had an incredibly rewarding career in hospitality, the opportunities to travel across the world. I've met people across the world, and I've learned so much. And being a very loud Canadian, it's a place that I have found that I fit in and I can express myself very openly because it's the right industry for me. So really just communicating that as early as we can to these people, to allow them to think of the industry as a career and not just a stepping stone as well.
It really is a cultural thing, isn't it? Because if you go, one of the things that really drew me to travel technology was that people, developers write blogs about their projects, right? If they just finish a piece of work or shipped a bit of software, they write this blog about what they worked on, what they learned. You just never see that in hospitality. You never see people are like, I've just finished this project, or we see people bitching and moaning and complaining, but we don't see constructive stuff about what it's like to work here. So I think there's definitely, find your own voice or encourage your team to tell their stories about where they work, and I think it'll draw more people to the industry.
Yeah.
And definitely go and speak in schools. It's not all policemen and firemen, right? Everyone should come and work in hospitality. Naomi, what are your thoughts on the industry? Go on, David.
Oh, sorry, David. No, I agree with Kat and what you said. We need to get out into communities more. The experience I had in 2021 working for the NHS, it's the first place I've ever worked where I was a minority. And hospitality is getting better, but still, generally, people look and sound like me. Yeah. And I think we need to get out into communities more, into schools. It is a great career. You can achieve some great things. My dad, if he was alive, would be proud to see where I am, because he was a bin man, and he used to scrimp and save to get us kids through. And now I'm doing really well in a career, got my own place. Get out into communities and talk to people and tell them what they can achieve.
Yeah, it's a hard couple of years at the start, isn't it? They are long hours, the pay's not great, but actually a lot of industries are like that. And if you create a chance to travel, a great team to work with, and a sense of what come next, you're right. It's a profession. These are great jobs and careers that we should be proud of. Naomi?
I think a lot of it depends on how you treat your part-time staff. From experience. So I started my hospitality career at school, no idea what I wanted to do. Loved where I ended up working in a 5-star hotel, loved it. I was treated like absolute rubbish, and I was there for 3 years, and that was as a part-time member of staff. I was not treated like the full-time members of staff. I did not see where I was to where you are. I could not envision that, and I feel like that's maybe a barrier that needs to be kind of caught soon, so that you are not just attracting staff, but you're retaining them. Because think about the amount of people that go through hospitality part-time while at university, all these ways. If you could keep them, imagine how many people would be in the industry, but you lose them because you treat them like rubbish.
Yeah.
Not you guys, personally, because you're here. But
which one of you did it? Come on.
No personal attacks.
No, but aggression is always.
I think you're absolutely right. I mean, I remember I started off kind of making baguettes and clearing tables at 13 and 14, right? And it was an amazing experience, but you're absolutely right. It's such a low barrier to entry. Anyone can get a job in hospitality. It's on all of us to make sure that experience is amazing, and not just your own experience, but why aren't you plugging them into communities where, hey, if they're not getting everything they need from you, rather than the next time them go and temp at Amazon, they actually go and find another another hospitality business, and then another one, because it maybe yours isn't perfect for them and they can't go full time, but let's keep them in the industry. Let's make sure that all their experiences in the industries, they are plugged into great teams, opportunities to see what can come next, opportunities to learn. I think it's a really key one. Cool.
Yeah.
Any final questions from the crowd? No? Fine. Well, look, let's finish nice and prompt, because I think we all deserve a coffee and a break. But massive thank you to my guests, Kat, Naomi, David. Thanks for sharing some really personal stories there. We will see all of you on Otolo or other equally good online hospitality communities in the days to come. Drop me a note and we'll make some things happen. Thank you all for having us.
Thank you.
Thanks.